ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरि वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we will continue the sixth chapter of the fifth canto, third sloka. Sonu pravishto bhagavams bhagavams jeshtanurupena tam ganam binnam samyojayam asha suktam karma prabodhayan. Okay. Thus, when the personality of God had entered into the elements by his energy, all the living entities were enlivened into different activities, just as one is engaged in his work after awakening from sleep. So here we see that, if activity comes when there is life in it, right? So the body is active when there is life in it. In the same way, all the material elements becomes active, when the Supreme Lord as Paramatma enters into these entities, right? So here we see that, the Supreme Personality of Godhead entered into the elements by his energy. All the living entities were enlivened into different activities, just as one is engaged in his work after awakening from sleep. So the Lord as Paramatma, he enters into the elements, he enters into the hearts of every living entity, and thus the whole material manifestation is active. So we have studied this aspect that without the soul, the body is dead, and without the super soul, nothing can work. Even the soul also cannot function without the support of the super soul. Okay, purport. Every individual soul remains unconscious after the dissolution of the creation and thus enters into the Lord with his material energy. So this the individual living entities, they are actually, they rest in the body of Mahavishnu, or during the time of dissolution, and then they, when the time of again the recreation happens, so then they get unleashed, and then no they, for them to work, so again the Lord as Paramatma has to sit next to them, otherwise they will not be able to work, they will not be able to be activated, right? So we are working, sometimes we think that oh, I am thinking or I am doing something, how does the Lord know this thing? Until unless the Lord knows and Lord gets it done, no, we will not even, first, before even we knowing, the Lord knows. Nothing we can actually do, including thinking or doing anything, without the sanction or without the help of the Supreme Lord, as Paramatma, we cannot do anything. Okay, these individual living entities are conditioned souls, everlastingly, but in each and every material creation, they are given a chance to chance to liberate themselves and become free souls. They are all given a chance to take advantage of the Vedic wisdom and find out what is their relationship with the Supreme Lord, how they can be liberated, and what the ultimate profit is in such liberation. By properly studying the Vedas, one becomes conscious of his position and thus take to the transcendental devotional service of the Lord, and is gradually promoted to the spiritual sky. The individual souls in the material world engage in different activities according to their past unfinished desires. After the dissolution of a particular body, the individual soul forgets everything, but the all merciful Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart as witness, the super soul, awakens him and reminds him of his past desires, and thus he begins to act accordingly in his next life. So Prabhupada always used to quote this logic that remembrance is, we are forgetful because of change of body. So we are changing our body at every moment, and at the time of death, it's a major change of body, and change of body means forgetfulness. And like the Lord actually, as Paramatma, He reminds us of our past desires so that we are able to pursue those desires after we get the new body. Okay, this unseen guidance is described as fate. Hmm. So people call it a fate, And a sensible man can understand that this continues his material bondage in the three modes of nature. So the Lord reminds us of the past desires, but then no, that is also the cause of our continuance in the material modes of nature. So then, why does the Lord reminds us? No, because we liked it, we wanted it, so He reminds us. And why not He just take us back to Godhead if we have forgotten everything? Okay, so if we have forgotten everything, that is not sufficient enough to go back to Godhead. We have to develop loving devotional service towards the Supreme Lord. So that is when we will be able to go back to the spiritual world. So till the time we naturally want to serve the Lord doesn't take us back to Godhead. And instead, the Lord is actually, as Paramatma, he's more of administrative role. No, as we had many times discussed, the Paramatma does a mostly administrative role, whereas he Upadrishta, no, he oversees Anumanta, he permits different actions, and then no Bharta, Bhokta, no Manishina. So like that, no various things are mentioned, and then he sits in the region of heart, and then he gives the knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. He directs the wanderings of all the living entities in the material world. So all this thing is done, but then for the devotion to the Lord, so he doesn't give no devotion to himself. It is some devotee has to come and give it to us. No, otherwise we will not be able to get the devotional service to the Lord. So the Lord will only keep reminding us of our desires. If we had spiritual desires, the Lord will remind us of the spiritual desires. If we had material desires, the Lord will just remind us of that. So he will not do anything other than this. So because he is in the role that, okay, whatever you want, no, I'm ready to give. So that's the role that the Lord is actually playing. And if we have spiritual desires, that also will be fulfilled, right? Okay. The unconscious sleeping stage of the living entity just after the partial or total dissolution of the creation is wrongly accepted as the final stage of life by some less intelligent philosophers. After the dissolution of the partial material body, a living entity remains unconscious for only a few months, and after the total dissolution of the material creation, he remains unconscious for many millions of years. So when we lose our material body, that means when we die, so we are unconscious for few months, till the time we get into the womb of another mother, and then till the time appropriate body is developed, and then the consciousness comes. So till then we are unconscious, right? So during the dissolution of the material creation, this the same thing is going to happen for a little more longer period. So that time for a few millions of years, right? So till the time the next creation happens, now we will be there in the body of Mahavishnu in an unconscious state. Just as we will be unconscious after death and before we receive another body from another mother and father. Okay. But when the creation is again revived, he is awakened to his work by the Lord. The living entity is eternal, and the wakeful state of his consciousness, manifested by activities, is his natural condition of life. He cannot stop acting while awake, and thus he acts according to his diverse desires. When his desires are trained in the transcendental service of the Lord, his life becomes perfect, and he is promoted to the spiritual sky to enjoy eternal awakened life. right? So this, it's not that the sometimes the void meditation and like just meditate on such things like just remove all your desires, make your desires zero and things like that. So that's not something perfect. Why? Because that's kind of situation we are there when we are in between the death and the next birth. So, and that's not solving the problem. So we have to have the spiritual desires, and we have to get promoted to the spiritual world, and then be engaged in activity. Stoppage of activity is not Krishna consciousness or ultimate perfection. So being properly active is what is important. Text 4. Prabuddha karma daivena trayo विम त्रयोविंशत् शतिको गणः प्रेरितो जनयत् स्वाभिर्मात्राभिरधिपुरुषम्. Okay. When the 23 principal elements were set in action by the will of the Supreme, the gigantic universal form or the Vishwarupa body of the Lord come into existence. Okay, so 23 elements is, we saw like how there are the five knowledge acquiring senses, then five working senses, and then the five panchabhutas, and then the five tanmatras or the sense objects. And this puts it to 20. Then mind, intelligence, and false ego, it becomes 23. Or sometimes various combinations are used to arrive at this number 23. Okay, so in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam, we will see that various numbers, where this whole material creation is summarized as different numbers. Like sometimes it is summarized as 5, sometimes it is summarized as 8, 12, 20 or 20, 23 and 25, like that. So it is all these numbers calculations are very detailedly explained in a section in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam. But anyway, so that is just categorizing a set of things into one or detailing it out. So it is that's how we arrive at various numbers of the material elements. So, and here when these material elements are activated, so then the Vishwarupa or the gigantic universal form of the Lord, it comes into existence. Okay, purport. The Virata Rupa or Vishwarupa, the gigantic universal form of the Lord, which is very much appreciated by impersonalists, is not an eternal form of the Lord. So, Lord's, all forms are eternal. Lord's forms are like permanent and eternal. But then the Vishwarupa form, no, it is not an eternal form. And in fact, in most of the cases, it is an imaginary form. Right? Okay. It is manifested by the supreme will of the Lord after the ingredients of material creation. Lord Krishna exhibited this Virata or Vishwarupa to Arjuna just to convince the impersonalists that he is the original personality of Godhead. Krishna exhibits the Virata Rupa. It is not that Krishna was exhibited by the Virata Rupa. Okay, so this is a very important principle. It is not that first Vishwarupa was there and that Vishwarupa exhibited Krishna's form. No, first Krishna's form was there, and Krishna exhibited the Virata Rupa. Krishna exhibited the four-ended form. In Bhagavad Gita, it is very clearly there. So we can see that Krishna is exhibiting all these forms. So it is not in the capacity of Virata Rupa to exhibit Krishna's form, right? So it is vice versa. It's not true. Vice versa is not possible. So Narayana form exhibiting Krishna's form, that's not possible. So Krishna can exhibit Narayana form. No, Narayana form is like subservient form of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So in that way, we can see that Krishna's form is like superior to the Virata Rupa, right? Okay, the Virata Rupa is not therefore an eternal form of the Lord exhibited in the spiritual sky. It is a material manifestation of the Lord. The Archa Vigraha or the worshipable deity in the temple is a similar manifestation of the Lord for the neophytes. But in spite of their material touch, such forms of the Lord as the Virata and Archa are all non-different from his eternal form as Lord Krishna. So here we see that the Lord's form as Archa Vigraha, so which is generally called as Archa. So like this form, though it is made of material elements, but still these Archa Vigraha is directly representing the Supreme Lord. In fact, we should consider it as non-different from the Supreme Lord, and we should worship them in that way. So we should not think that, okay, this is a material element where we are just kind of having it for some reference or something like that. No. So this is Archa Vigraha is a personal form of the Lord, right? So they may be temporary, no, they may not be eternal in the spiritual world, but then these forms are also non-different from the Supreme Lord, and the Lord can reciprocate with us through these forms, right? Okay, text 5. Parena vish Parena vishatha swasmin matrya vishva shriganah chauksho yonam asadhya yasmin lokas characharah. Okay. As the Lord in his plenary portion entered into the elements of the universal creation, they transformed into gigantic form in which all the planetary systems and all movable and immovable creations rest. Okay. So, Lord, as a plenary portion, enters into the elements of universal creation, and they transformed into gigantic form in which all planetary systems and all movable and immovable creations rest. So, the Lord is the resting place of everything. So, let's see the purport. The elements of cosmic creation are all matter and have no potency to increase in volume unless entered into by the Lord in his plenary portion. So, Prabhupada actually has given us this wonderful book, Life Comes from Life. So, in that, he makes an argument. The science actually talks about the matter has different, due to different chemical reactions, they combine together. And then at certain point of combination, the symptoms of life actually comes in. So this is how they actually kind of give a idea of how does the life come. But then Srila Prabhupada says life comes from life. In fact, matter also comes from life. So he gives an example that you see a lemon tree. No, lemon has a citric acid, and so much of citric acid is there in lemon tree, and it is all because there is one living entity, one soul is present in the whole tree. Now, if not for the soul, there is the lemons are not going to be produced. You just destroy the tree, or you just cut the tree from the root, you uproot the tree, then you will not get any more citric acid from the tree, any more lemons will not come. So that means chemicals are created because of the soul, and soul, the super soul is the cause of the individual soul. In this way, life actually comes from life. So matter cannot produce life at any point in time. In fact, matter cannot increase itself also. No, matter cannot increase or decrease itself also. It requires a spiritual touch. It requires a living entity for the matter to increase or decrease, for the matter to transform, right? So otherwise, matter, anything you keep, it will just be there. It is only because of action of a spiritual entity on the matter actually transforms. So sometimes we think the chemical reactions that are happening in the laboratory, oh, two chemicals we are mixing, and then there is some reaction. It also requires the touch of the super soul. Without the touch of the super soul, no, all our chemistry will go for toss. No, nothing will work. No chemical bonding will work. So there is required, the spiritual touch is essential, very, very essential. Until unless spiritual touch is there, no material transformations can happen. Right? Okay. Matter is a product of spirit and increases only by the touch of spirit. The entire cosmic manifestation has not assumed its gigantic form by itself, as wrongly calculated by less intelligent persons. As long as spirit is within matter, matter can increase as needed, but without the spirit, the matter stops increasing. For example, as long as there is spiritual consciousness within the material body of a living entity, the body increases to the required size, but a dead material body, which has no spiritual consciousness, stops increasing. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, importance is given to the spiritual consciousness, not to the body, not the body. The entire cosmic body increases by the same process, that we experience in our small bodies. The Lord's one of the name is called Vishvatma. Vishvatma means he is the soul of entire creation, Vishva Atma. So in the same way, like the Lord as Paramatma, in every anu, in every sphere of the material existence, he is there. That is how like he is able to function. No, that is how the whole creation is able to function. Wherever we are able to see an individuality, wherever we are able to see some kind of a property is unique to itself, then immediately we should know that Paramatma is there. That is how this kind of variety is able to come. Otherwise, no variety can be there. So by understanding this, actually we can be Krishna conscious at every moment. So anything that we see, can, in front of me there is a wall, which is having yellow color. So how is this yellow color is coming out? Oh, Paramatma is sitting there. He is actually, he's actually enabling this color to be there. And then I'm able to see that some trees are there and that is growing and that's having some green leaves and it is standing erect and things like that. Oh, all these qualities, standing is a quality, the color of the leaf is a quality, and it is growing, it is a quality. So many different qualities are there. All these qualities are made possible only because of the existence of Paramatma, right? So in this way, we can actually be Krishna conscious. Anything that we see which has certain properties, immediately we can actually understand, there is Paramatma, right? So this is how we have to be Krishna conscious at every sphere of our life, right? Okay. The entire cosmic body increases by the same process that we experience in our small bodies. One should not, however, foolishly think that the individual infinitesimal soul is the cause of gigantic manifestation of the universal form. The universal form is called Virata Rupa because the Supreme Lord is within it in his plenary portion. Okay. So in this way, like we can see that the Lord is present in every levels of the creation, the macro level, the micro level, in all the intermediate levels, everywhere the Lord is present. Okay. Text 6. Um, Hiranmayasa Purushaha Sahasra Parivatsaran Andakosha Uvashapsu Sarvasatto Sattvopa Brahmhitaha. The gigantic Virata Purusha, known as Hiranmaya, lived for 1000 celestial years on the water of the universe, and all the living entities lay with him. So, Hiranmaya, it means like golden, no kind of this one. So the Hiranya Garbha, so the Brahma is sometimes called as Hiranya Garbha, and so Hiranya means like it is golden form actually. Okay, purport. After the Lord entered each and every universe as the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, half of the universe was filled with water. The cosmic manifestation of uh, planetary system, outer space, etc., which are visible to us, is only one half of the complete universe. So always this Brahma Anda, this is how the Brahmanda is, the word actually comes, Brahma Anda. So an anda or an egg shaped entity, and where the Supreme Lord takes his residence, Brahmanda, and like in this half is filled with water. So just like when we take, no, I don't recommend any of you to do this thing. So when we take any egg of a hen or something like that, we see that the same thing is there. Half is filled with liquid, and the rest half is like empty. And even the coconut, you take. So like if you open a coconut, like half of the coconut is filled with water and rest of it is empty. So especially the coconut is actually given an example, in this case. So that is how the universe is also like half of the shell, the half of the universe is filled with water. Sometimes when we hear this pastime of Hiranyaksha throwing the mother earth into the water, into the ocean, so then generally people ask this question, no, oceans are all there on the earth, and how can earth be thrown into ocean? So this is not that ocean, this is the half filled water of the universe, right? So Hiranyaksha was so powerful, he can just remove earth from its orbit, and he could put earth into the Garbhodaka ocean. So he is really very powerful, very very powerful. So okay, someday we will discuss about the um, Vedic astronomy. So wherein actually Hiranyaksha, he didn't put this just this globe, he put the whole of earth crust. So the whole of earth crust is there in the cylindrical form, and there are four diggajas. No, there are four elephants, huge in size. No, they are balancing the whole thing, whole earth crust, which is in the cylindrical form. And just like no we can, what is the example, the cylindrical form, yeah. So, and it's a flat cylindrical form, it's a huge flat cylindrical form which has many many layers below, right? So each layer is called as atal, vital, talatal, mahatal, rasatal, like that. So many lokas are there, and this whole cylindrical this one is placed on the hoods of Anantasesh. And no, now it is one point touch and a huge cylindrical disc kind of a thing, huge cylindrical disc kind of a thing, that is placed on the head of the Anantasesh. And in the four sides, four huge elephants, they actually balance this whole earth crust. So we can imagine if even one of the elephants, just get tired or move here and there, move its position. That's it. We will be like into the Garbhodaka ocean below. So we will fall into the whole earth crust, with the from Bhuloka to Patala Loka, everything will at one shot. It'll all fall into the this one. It'll all fall into the Garbhodaka ocean, which is below the Anantasesh. So that is the water half filled the universe. And here, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, especially Hiranyaksha, they were digging tunnels so much. They were piling and making, digging holes and holes and holes into the earth, and they were they were successful in toppling the whole thing, right? So that's the this one. And then if that would have been the case, then they would have also perished. No, actually the Bhu, Bhuvar, Swarga. So in Gayatri Mantra also, there's three things are mentioned: Bhu, Bhuvar, and Swarga. So Bhuloka and the Patala Lokas, so they are belonging to this disc kind of cylindrical disc kind of a entity. But then Bhuvar Loka and Swarga Loka, they are higher planetary systems. No, they are connected to pole star, and they are not part of this disk. So the demons are generally residents of Bhuvar Loka, and because of that, they are not affected by this thing. And why do they have to do all these things? Because the people in the Bhuloka, they perform yajna, and because they perform yajna, the devatas are getting energy, and these people are doing so much of control of the world. And the demons always want to take control of the world, and they they always try to destroy the yajna, and they always try to destroy all the spiritual practices and things like that. So they think that it is because of these spiritual practices Vishnu is getting energy, the demigods are getting energy. So let's destroy this, then Vishnu will become weak, and then we will conquer Vishnu. So this is how their plans are. So anyways, so this is we can see that the half filled water, that's what we were discussing, the half filled water. So when the whole of the inner crust of the universe, or inner space of the universe, is like the coconut. And as the coconut is half filled with water, in the same way, like the earth or the Brahmanda is also half filled with water, and rest of the half is only the creation, the sky and everything that we are able to see. Okay, so let's continue. After the Lord entered each and every universe as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, half of the universe was filled with water. The cosmic manifestation of the planetary systems, outer space, etc., which are visible to us, is only one half of the complete universe. Before the manifestation takes place, and after the entrance of Vishnu within the universe, there is a period of 1000 celestial years. So let's just read this. Before the manifestation takes place and after the entrance of Vishnu within the universe, there is a period of 1000 celestial years. That means all the material elements have come into existence, but then they have not come into the action, the no creation, and all these planetary systems are not formed. So till the time when Mahavishnu comes in, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu comes into the universe, and actual no creation starts, the secondary creation starts. So till there, there is a lot of gap is there. 1000 celestial years is there. All the living entities injected within the womb of Mahatattva are divided in all universes with incarnation of Garbhotakashai Vishnu, and all of them lie down with Lord until Brahma is born. Right? So first, all the living entities were in the body of Mahavishnu or Karanarnavashai Vishnu. So, and once the universes are created, so then Garbhodakashaya Vishnu takes shelter in each of these universes, and he fills the universe with half water. So there are innumerable universes are there, and everyone has one Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, and every Garbhodakashaya Vishnu fills the universe with no half fills the universe with water, and have and the total living entities are divided amongst all these Garbhodakashaya Vishnus in various universes. And like before we were sleeping, within the body of Mahavishnu, and after the universe is created, we continue to sleep in the body of Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, right? Till the time Brahma is born. And how much time it takes for Brahma to take birth? 1000 celestial years, after the universe is created. Okay, so Brahma is the first living being within the universe, and from him all other demigods and living creatures are born. Manu is the original father of mankind, and therefore in Sanskrit, mankind is called as Manushya. Even the English word man comes from this word Manu, right? So that is how we our forefather is Manu, right? So like we are all descendants of Manu. That is why we are called as Manushya, right? Humanity in different bodily qualities is distributed throughout the various planetary systems, right? So in this way, the Brahma, he creates the Prajapatis like Manu, Daksha, and various people, and these Prajapatis actually create many more living entities, and they fill the universe with population. All the souls which are sleeping in the Garbhodakashai Vishnu's body, so they are all given the bodies, for them to exist. Okay. Savai Vishwashujam Garbo Devak Karmatma Shaktiman Vibhabhajatma Natmanam Ekada Dashadhatrida. Ekada Dashadhantrida. Okay. Hmm. The total energy of Mahatattva in the form of gigantic Virata Rupa divided himself by himself into the consciousness of the living entities, the life of activity, the self identification, which are subdivided into 1, 10, and 3 respectively. Okay, so this is a very technical sloka. Let's see the purport. Mm, Consciousness is the sign of living entity or the soul. The existence of the soul is manifested in the form of consciousness called Jnana Shakti. The total consciousness is that of the gigantic Virata Rupa, and the same consciousness is exhibited in individual persons. The activity of consciousness is performed through the air of life, which is of 10 divisions, right? So the airs of life are called prana, apana, udana, vayana, samana, and are also differently qualified as naga, kurma, krika, devadatta, and dhananjaya. So these are all the 10 kinds of air. So 5 kinds of air we all know: prana, apana, udana, vayana, and samana. So this another 5 kinds of airs that is there. It seems like I'm also not very familiar with this, but these are 10 kinds of airs which manifest the activity, of the soul. The soul, like, is helped by these different prana vayus, so that the actions can happen. And if any of these vayus are affected, then a person becomes diseased. He becomes, like, affected by some kind of a crippleness in his actions, right? So that's why vayu is very important. These vayus have to be balanced, always in the body. So then the uh, what is it? Then the proper functioning of the body can actually happen. So the one is what is 1, 10, and 3, right? So ekada, trida, and no, ekada, dashada, and trida. So 1, 10, and 3. So 1 is that one universal consciousness, and then the 10 is the 10 different kind of airs that are there. And then let's continue the purport. The consciousness of the soul becomes polluted by material atmosphere, and thus various activities are exhibited in the false ego of bodily identification. These various activities are described in Bhagavad Gita as Bahushaka hi anantascha buddhayo abhyavasainam. The conditioned soul is bewildered into various activities for want of pure consciousness. In pure consciousness, the activity is one. The consciousness of the individual soul becomes one with the supreme consciousness when there is complete synthesis between the two. So this we studied yesterday also, that just because the three modes of nature is there, so we have different permutations of, we are affected by the three modes of nature in various permutations, so that we act in different ways. No two-person can think the same way, because no, all of us are affected by three modes of nature in a different way. So when we become Hare Krishna, my voice is okay?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, okay, okay. So, okay. So, like we see that, this consciousness of um, um, I'm sorry, like I just so we act in a completely different way, because the we are all affected by different modes of nature. So because we are affected by different modes of nature, we cannot think alike, we cannot do things alike. Even if we are able to get along, we will not be able to get along in all aspects of life. Sometimes when we have this grahastha counseling, so we kind of say that, so living with a partner or living with anyone, putting up with anyone, means one golden word is very important, that is tolerance, right? So we cannot get the other person act the way we want, and we cannot also act in the exact way what the other person wants. And if it is a big team effort and things like that, it's more important, the tolerance, and these qualities are very important. Practicality is not going to happen. So practically, are we going to put up with anyone? It's not possible. It's definitely not possible. It's only way is how tolerant we are and how tolerant the other person is. So that is how we can actually tolerate each other. It's not that, oh, I am very good, no, everyone should like me. No, it is not about good and bad. It's about, getting in sync with each other, right? So two goods also can have a conflict. So it's not that only good versus bad all the time. No, most of the times it is good versus good, and most of the times in Kali Yuga is bad versus bad. No, I am so bad, and no, this person is bad in a different way, so we don't get along, right? So its most important aspect is tolerance. No, if we don't have tolerance, no, we are not going to sustain. We are not going to what is that? We cannot get along, for a long time. So that's why in Kali Yuga, where these qualities are not given emphasis, where more rules and regulations and more rights and more policies and things like that are into place, so we are missing a very very important point, where this tolerance, compassion, and attitude of helping and trying to understand the other person and things like that, oh, this is all completely gone, and there is no possibility, of getting along. So that's why we see a lot of broken marriages. We see that, and a lot of even people also, like, they're not able to stay together, for a long time. Even friends, they are not able to stay together for a long time. So we are at a distance. It is good. We can maintain our relationship. We are very very close with each other, then it becomes very difficult, right? So only one aspect can actually make this thing possible, that is having Krishna consciousness, working for Krishna's pleasure. No, let's not work for my pleasure, let's not work for your pleasure, so let's work for Krishna's pleasure, right? So in that sense, we will try to serve each other also. We will try to understand each other also, because Krishna likes every single living entity. So from that, as Krishna as center, we will start and trying to understand the moods and needs and necessities of different living entities, and we will try to act accordingly. Without Krishna, it's all mess. No, it's very difficult. Okay, so let's go further. The monist believes that there is only one consciousness, whereas the sattvatas or the devotees believe that although there is undoubtedly one consciousness, they are one because there is agreement. The individual consciousness is advised to dovetail with the supreme consciousness as as instructed by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. So, this one consciousness is a very important principle, as we had many times discussed. Ekam eva advitiyad. So there is only one entity in the entire creation, that is the Supreme Lord, and we are all dependent entities. So, like, dependent entities means like an entity is defined by its consciousness. So, if Lord is the only conscious being that exists, so then I am also conscious, and no, we are all personalists, and no, Dvaita, or more specifically like Achintya Beda Beda followers. And how do we reconcile this aspect of there is only one entity that exists? So here Srila Prabhupada nicely puts that oneness is based on our agreement to be there with the Supreme Consciousness. So okay, then devotees of the Lord are in agreement with the Supreme Lord. So then there is one consciousness, ek mat hota hai. Like, no, there is only one, uh, one kind of a what is that? Mm, One consciousness, we can say. And then the non-devotee living entities, the material world is full of non-devotee living entities, and they are all different. They all want to think in a different way, and they don't want to agree with the Supreme Lord. So, no, that is also one consciousness. Why? Because the Lord finally takes it, and then He actually gives us the privilege to think in a different way, and He executes whatever is needed, and He as Paramatma is there in every single living entity, and ultimately there is only one thing that happens. Now, without the sanction of the Lord, not even a blade of grass can move. Maybe this blade of grass is a non-devotee, and no, the soul in the blade of grass is non-devotee, but still, without the sanction of the Lord, nothing can happen. So, in the total creation, there is one controlling entity, that is the Supreme Lord, and nobody can do anything without the sanction of the Supreme Lord. Right? Okay, let's continue. The Sarvadharma. Okay. The individual consciousness, Arjuna, is advised to dovetail with the supreme consciousness and thus maintain his conscious purity. It is foolish to try to stop the activity of consciousness, but they can be purified when they are dovetailed with the supreme. This consciousness is divided into three modes of self identification according to the proportion of purity. That is Adhyatmika, or self identification with the body and mind, and Adi Bhautika, or self identification with the material products, and Adi Daivika, or self identification as a servant of the Lord. Of the three, Adi Daivika, the self identification, is the beginning of purity of consciousness in pursuance of the desire of the Lord. So here we see that Ekada, Dashada, and Trida. So the one, like Virata Rupa, Virata Purusha. So when the what is it, creation gets manifested, he gets divided into 1, 10, and like the what is it, 3. So the one is the sum total of consciousness. That is the, you can say the Paramatma, or the Virata Purusha's consciousness himself. So that is the Paramatma. And then the second is the 10 is the 10 kinds of airs, which is going to help the living entity to create action. And then the 3 is Adi Atmika, Adi Bhautika, and Adi Daivika. So Adi Atmika means consciousness identifying oneself with the body. No, bodily consciousness is called Adi Atmika. And Adi Bhautika means consciousness that I am the possessor of all these entities, and consciousness, identifying ourselves with the material products of this world. And then Adi Daivika means identifying ourselves as a servant of the Lord. And it is mentioned this is the beginning of purifying the consciousness. There is much more is there. So, but at least this is the beginning of the purified existence, wherein we are going to be in sync with the Supreme Lord. Right? Okay, text 8. Esha hi ashesha satvanam atma atmamshah prama paramatmanah adyo vadharo yatrashu bhutagramo vibhavyate. Okay, the gigantic universal form of the Supreme Lord is the first incarnation and plenary portion of the super soul. He is the self of an unlimited number of living entities, and in him rests the aggregate creation, which thus flourishes. So he is the self of unlimited number of living entities. So for our body, what is the self of the body is the soul, right? So the soul is the owner of the body. Dehi. Many times we get this word dehi. Dehi nosmin yata dehe. So the possessor of the deha is called as dehi, and here we see that the possessor of unlimited souls is called the super soul. So super soul is the soul of all the living entities, right? So that is how he gets the name super soul. So body is active because of soul, and soul is active because of super soul, right? So and then in him rests the aggregate creation. So the total material elements and everything, so it rests on the Paramatma, right? So one universe, all the entities which are there, which is it's all rest in the Paramatma. So that is why he is called as Paramdhama. So Krishna is called as Paramdhama because in him rests the entire creation, unlimited universes, material universes, unlimited spiritual planets. Everything rests on that one entity. No, that is Supreme Lord Krishna. So that is why he is called as like Paramdhama. No, he is the ultimate resting place of everything that exists. So, okay, purport. The Supreme Lord expands himself in two ways: by personal plenary expansions and separated minute expansions. The personal plenary expansions are Vishnu Tattvas, and the separated expansions are the living entities, which is called as Swa Amsha. Personal means Swa. Swa means always it is personal. Swa Amsha. Amsha means like his portion or something like that. So Swa Amsha is called Vishnu Tattvas. The Supreme Lord Krishna, he expands himself into innumerable Vishnu forms. So that is called Swa Amsha, one's own personal expansion. And separated expansions means Vibhinna Amsha. So Vibhinna Amshas are the living entities, all of us. And since the living entities are very small, they are sometimes described as marginal energy of the Lord. So why marginal? Because they can fall in the material consciousness or in the spiritual consciousness. They are like the cat on the wall. They can jump either side, right? Okay. But the mystic yogis consider the living entities and the super soul, Paramatma, to be one and the same, right? So this is the misconception of the yogis. So they try to, for them, what is the thing? They are going from this platform. Everything that exists is matter, and then by their dhyana, so they come to the understanding, okay, beyond matter, something is there. That's called spirit. And now in the spirit, there is Paramatma and Jivatma, all these things that they don't know. So they kind of go by this experimental way, and they're trying to understand on their own. So they will just be seeing that, it's like, it's all the same. Just like a small kid, for it, any paper is the same. You give a 100 rupee note, 1,000 rupee note, or you give a like some rough paper or something like that. Everything looks the same for it. So in the same way, the mystic yogis, they go by this way of experiment. There is something beyond matter is there, and that is spirit. So then they will not be able to differentiate between the individual soul and the super soul. So they will just be there in this kind of, no, okay, no, there is Brahman, there is soul that exists. So for them, it is difficult to understand. Okay. It is, however, a minor point of controversy. After all, everything created rests on the gigantic Virata or universal form of the Lord. Okay. So text 9. Sadhyatma Sadhi Daivascha Sadhibhuta Iti Trida Virata Prano Dashavidas Ekada Hridayena Cha. So okay, so now that Ekada, Trida, and Dashada, no, that is explained in this particular sloka. So Sa Adhyatma, Sa Adidaiva, and Sa Adibhuta. No, it is Iti Trida. So these three are called the Trida, and Virata Prano Dashavidaha. So this there are like 10 different kinds of the prana that is there, and Ekada Hridayena Cha. So okay, let's see the translation and purport. The gigantic universal form is represented by 3, 10, and 1 in sense that he is the body and the mind and the senses. He is the dynamic force for all movements by 10 kinds of life energy, and he is the one heart where life energy is generated, right? So, like as we had mentioned, the oneness, that universal consciousness, or the consciousness of the Virata and Virata Purusha, and then the 10 are the 10 different kinds of airs that are there, and the three are the Adi Atma, Adi Bhauti, and then Adi Daivika. So, like this Adi Atma, Adi Bhautika, and Adi Daivika are divided in many, many different ways. So, Adi Atma means the body, and Adi Bhauta is the mind, and the senses are called as Adi Daiva because senses are controlled by the demigods. So, because of that, in second canto also we studied this principle, that Adi Daiva so means the the controller of the senses and things like that. So, the senses are put in that way. Okay, let's see the purport. In Bhagavad Gita 7.4 and 5, no, as we had many times discussed this, like 7.4 and 5 are very, very important, and very, very important slokas to understand our existence and what is our position in the entire creation. The whole of the creation is described in these two slokas, 7.4 and 7.5. What is the composition of the entire creation? Now, that's very, very clearly described here. So, first 7.4 is Bhumi Rapo Analo Vayo Kammuno Buddhi Revacha Ahankara Mitiyam Me Binna Prakriti Rashtada. So, this is everything is described as 8. So, previously we were studying as 23, and here the same 23 is described as 8: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. So, just in 8, we can summarize the all of material elements. So, there is material elements are there, and in the next sloka, now we can understand aparyayam. No, like till now what is described as apara. No, that means it's not. Para means superior, apara means inferior. So aparyayam itastva anyam, no prakritim viddhime param. So till now whatever is described, this earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, is called apara, or inferior energy. And superior to it is, there is another energy is there, that is jiva bhuta mahabaho edam daryate jagat. So this living and this the superior energy of mind is the what is that is the living entities, and they are trying to exploit, no, edam dharyate jahat. So they are trying to exploit the inferior material nature, right? So this puts the whole of the creation, and then the Lord also tells that, these are all my energy, this my prakriti. He actually tells that. So the we can, from that we can understand, the person who is explaining, he is existing. And what is he explaining? He is explaining there are two different kinds of energies that are there, and one is the material energy, another is spiritual energy. The spiritual energy is the soul, and material energy is earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. All these things put together is the whole of creation, and nothing else that exists in the entire creation, right? So these two slokas are very, very important slokas which describe the entirety of the creation. Okay, so now let's see. In Bhagavad Gita 7.4 and 5, it is stated that the 8 elements, earth, water, fire, air, sky, mind, intelligence, and false ego, are all products of Lord's inferior energy, whereas the living entities who are seen to utilize the inferior energy originally belongs to the superior energy, the internal potency of the Lord. The eightfold inferior energies works grossly and subtly, whereas the superior energy works as the central generating force, right? So grossly and subtly, the 5 gross elements, they work grossly, and the 3 subtle elements, mind, intelligence, and false ego, so they work in a subtle way, right? And then the soul is the generating force. If soul is not there, no, these elements will not function. No spirit, the touch of the spirit is very important. Okay, so this is experienced in the human body. The gross elements, namely earth, etc., form the gross body and are like a coat, whereas the subtle mind and false ego acts like the inner clothing of the body. So inners, so the external dress is the 8 elements, and sorry, 5 elements, 5 panchabhutas, and then the inners are like the mind, intelligence, and false ego. Okay, the movements of the body are first generated from the heart, and all the activities of the body are made possible by the senses, powered by 10 kinds of air within the body. So as we had mentioned, if these airs are not properly situated, so then they create havoc in the body, right? Okay, so the 10 kinds of air is described as follows. The main air passing through the nose in breathing is called prana. The air which passes through the rectum as evacuated bodily air is called apana. The air which adjusts the foodstuffs within the stomach, which sometimes sounds as belching, is called samana. The air which passes through the throat and a stoppage of which constitutes suffocation is called udana. The total air which circulates throughout the entire body is called vayana. Subtler than these five airs, there are others also. That is that which facilitates the opening of the eyes, mouth, etc., which is called naga air, and the air which increases the appetite is called uh, krikara, krikara air, and the air which helps concentration is called kurma air, and air which helps relaxation